I used to think the spaces between lives were quick. Living one, managing the change, moving on, starting the next. Uncomfortable, but easy. Now I know that big changes aren't like that. At all. Zaragoza was my first attempt at changing the course of my life. My first leave of absence from the police force, right before COVID. I lived here for 2 years. It's the city that brought me Laura, my soul sister, whom I've spoken to you about many times. Every time I come here, Zaragoza brings up a bittersweet emotion. On one hand, the affection and joy of seeing Laura, the people and cats here. On the other, the memory of being, once again, at that same point as last time. That point where nothing was working out, my finances were in ruins, my body was saying enough, my relationship was at its breaking point, and, in the end, I decided to throw in the towel and go back. How curious life is, don't you think? It seems that when you don't pass a test, life brings it back to you, but a little bit harder. As if it's truly testing whether you're serious this time, whether you're ready to take the next step leaving your old self behind, or if, instead, you're going to shrink back again. On this occasion, when I decided to take the leap again in pursuit of that dream life, I did so thinking I had a plan and a safety net again. But, as you well know, this time life decided to take it all the way, so I'd have no choice but to decide, go back or change my story. Naive me, I thought the transition would be like all the previous ones. But of course, when you no longer have anything, you have to rebuild everything, including yourself. Because let's not forget that I didn't have me either. I had completely lost myself. I've been on this transition journey for 2 years now, and not a day goes by where, even if it's just for a millisecond, I don't remember that stability I used to have that's now gone, tempting me to go back. However, in the course of this time, I've learned that the most curious thing about the liminal spaces in these massive transitions is that the nostalgic comfort of the past is nothing more than a mere illusion.
Hola, Arianita.
There is no possible way back to things as they were. The foundations are different, social and economic situations have changed. As is my case, where even with the good salary of my previous job, I couldn't afford a place of my own in Barcelona. And, most importantly, after such a change, you aren't the same either. It's in that moment when you truly feel that limbo, that instant where you can't see the path forward but the path back no longer exists, and you feel literally trapped. At that point, there's a constant debate within us, a tug-of-war between our fear and the desire for everything to calm down and be like before, versus the hope that the next step will open the door to that stability we crave, but in the place we actually want to be. That tension between giving up or pushing on. How do you know who wins? How do you know when to stop? I think the key lies in being aware of our current identity. If you remember the video where we talked about knowing who that person we want to be is, the idea is to know that future person, but also to know ourselves today. The problem comes when we aren't entirely aware of who we are right now, in this space between two worlds. To give you an example, many of these days I find myself thinking of myself as the person I was 2 years ago. If I think about looking for a part-time job to get that money to help me stop being in constant survival mode, I find that my mind thinks it has to look for a job looking for offers on apps where thousands of strange CVs like mine get lost. This limbo tells me there are different options than the ones I'd looked for before, and new ways of doing things, but my mind isn't yet fully aware of this upgrade. It's like when your computer tells you there's an update available, but you haven't plugged it into the power at night for 2 weeks for it to install. But the interesting thing is that if you ask for advice from those people who knew you at that origin, those who don't think like you, nor contemplate the possibilities, nor understand your vision, they will also try to get you to go back. And, let's be honest, there are people who are made uncomfortable by the transitions of others because, in a way, it makes them question their own lives. I suppose if you're still watching this video and listening to me, you understand what I mean. It's scary to disappoint that person close to you who tells you, with the greatest affection, to get a normal job, to settle in your city and stop wandering around. Because that was comfortable for you before, and it's what they know is safe. They want the best for you, but don't you think that sometimes what is safe for others can feel like a great void for you? I'd like to know what you think about this. If you've ever felt that pressure to go back into a box you no longer fit in, tell me down in the comments. I'd love to read your story. People often say that when you have nothing, you have a blank canvas with endless possibilities. And it's true. I think once again, the big barrier is simply our mind. While it fights to make us go back to what's safe and known, it doesn't let us see the new possibilities we've opened on the path where apparently nothing is happening, but where, in reality, we've been building our new pillars. Skills, experiences, contacts, things we need to recognize so we can make them shine. Many times, when I think about throwing in the towel to get out of this uncomfortable limbo, I make the effort to remember everything I have gained up until today. A life of adventures, of creativity, of wonderful people, of continuous learning. And I ask myself, if I've gained all this in time, how much more am I going to gain if I hold on a little longer? This space between lives sometimes feels like a place where nothing is happening, but it's not like that. This is precisely the space where we build our new identity, where we let go of the old, test the new, and if it works, we incorporate it into our being. And if it doesn't work, well, we add it to the experience. Thank you for joining me today through Zaragoza. Please let me know what you think about all this rambling. Take care, and I see you next week. Goodbye.